Exporting data from Salesforce. And so the most obvious tool to use for this would be the data loader, which I have open here. And I wanted to show you specifically these two buttons, which are export and export all. So we previously clicked on the export button to export some data out of Salesforce using the data loader. And that was on the lecture related to importing data. We used an export as our starting point or template and then did some data manipulation in our source file and then imported that. And so now, since we've already looked at briefly how to export, I want to highlight the export all button. The only difference between these two is that the export all functionality enables you to not only export records from Salesforce, but also to export any deleted records that reside in your recycle bin. And so if you're wanting to pull out, for instance, all contact records, even those that you've recently deleted, you would use export all instead of export. So I'm going to show you how to do that via the data loader here by clicking export all. And so in our example, we're wanting to export all contact records, even those that have been deleted and are currently residing in your recycle bin. And so you choose a target for your extraction. I'm just going to leave that the default of extract.csv, but you could browse and locate the folder that you want to export your data to. And you can even name this something different, for instance, and then click next, and then click yes to confirm that you're wanting to perform an export. And then you can start to form your SQL query by checking the checkboxes on the left here. Then once again, you can resize the window to give more room for your where clauses. And so I'm selecting the ID for the contact, and I also want to select the account ID for the corresponding contact, meaning the account that they belong to, and then as well their first name and last name. Let me go ahead and pull in the name as well. That's a combination of the first name and last name and the salutation. That's where the Mr. or Mrs. will come from. And then what I'm looking for as well is the is deleted flag. That's the flag to show if something's been deleted or not. And then as well, I want to pull in a custom field that we previously created for the social security number, for example. And now I want to create my where clauses. If I wanted to just export contact records that have been deleted and are in the recycle bin, I could do a where clause that says is deleted equals true, and I'm going to add that condition. And I'm going to copy this because I'm going to do another one here in a moment. So I'm going to Command C and then click Finish. And you notice it says that I'm selecting the ID, the is deleted flag, the account ID, last name, first name, salutation, and then the name and social security number custom field from contact where is deleted equals true. So I'm going to click yes to proceed. And then once the operation completes, it shows that there's 0 successful extractions and 0 errors. And so I've not deleted any contact records. So I'm going to click view extraction here and you see that there's none. And so I'm going to click OK. I'm going to do an export all again and select contact and then next and then yes to confirm. Then I'm going to generate my SQL query here. I'm going to say where is deleted equals false and click finish and yes to confirm. And now I've got 20 successful extractions. If I view the extractions, you see the contact ID and you notice the 3-character prefix of 003 for each of these records here. That's because those are contact records, which are a standard object, and all of those will always have a 003 for the 3-digit prefix for their 18-character or 15-character ID for that matter. And then the account IDs are 001 prefixes. These first 3 characters of accounts all start with 001. And then scrolling to the right, I see the last name, first name, the salutation, and then we see the name field, which combines the first and last name. This is a helpful functionality of Salesforce, is that it provides you the name field as well. And then we see Arthur Song with his social security number that we entered previously. To further demonstrate this, I'm going to delete the Jake Lorak record. I search for Jake and we find Mr. Jake Lorak. That's his salutation there. The field salutation on a contact gives the designation of Mr., Mrs., Miss, etc. So I'm going to click on him. I'm going to delete Jake Lorak, and then I'm going to show you where he resides in the recycle bin. So if I click on the recycle bin, it defaults to my recycle bin. So I've just deleted Jake Lorak, and here's the date and time of that action. And so now, if I return to the data loader, and so let's click export all, and then select contact, and then next, I'm going to replace the existing file of extract.csv. I'm going to select the ID, and the last name, first name, salutation, name, and is deleted. And let's go ahead and grab the account ID as well. And then I want to expand my window here to form my where clause, where is deleted equals true. Then click finish and proceed. Now we've got our one success now. So we can view the extraction and we can see Mr. Jake Lorak, who is deleted equals true. And so you can pull in things out of the recycle bin through export all, but not through export. Let's try that now and put that to the test by selecting contact. After having clicked the export button, we're going to see if we can and get to Jake because he's in the recycle bin. So I'm going to click next and yes. And then I'm going to select ID and is deleted. And let's just select the name field so we know who we're dealing with. And then we want to do the where clause where is deleted equals true again. Add the condition and click finish and then yes. And so I've just confirmed that you cannot pull in data out of the recycle bin when you just click on export. And so that's a good demonstration for you of what the difference is between export and export all. So another way that you can export data out of Salesforce is by way of a report. And so I've gone to the reports tab. I'm going to click on the account and contact reports, and then I'm going to select an account report. The one I'm selecting is a standard report that's out of the box with your Salesforce instance, and it's called accounts with last activity greater than 30 days. And so I'm going to change the last activity range from custom to all time in this updates to show these are the different accounts that I've not done any updates on for a while. So I click run report now that I've got some data to work with. You notice the export details button appears on the report. So you can export data from Salesforce by generating a report. So we just click on export details. It gives you the option for setting the file encoding from the drop down here. I usually keep that the default for myself, and then export format of CSV or XLS. And then you can simply click export, and then that saves a Excel or CSV file to your downloads folder that you can then open and manipulate the data accordingly. So here's that export in Excel, and it shows each record is a single row on this spreadsheet. And so this gives you a visual representation of what these exports look like as well. So when you have these exports from Excel, it gives you the filter capability for these different columns so that you can filter and select or deselect, for instance. And you notice that the display updates accordingly. And then it also gives you the reference of the name of the report that you generated and gives a copyright information and the date that it's generated and by whom and the company name. So this is another way that you can export data out of Salesforce is via report, which is very helpful. So I'm going to close that out and return to Salesforce now. Not going to bother to save that. So now I'm back in Salesforce and back to my export screen for my report. And so I'm going to click done on that to return back to my report. And so then another core functionality when it comes to exporting from Salesforce is accessible via the setup menu. So if you search for the word export, there's the data export option under data management. So if you click on that, this is a monthly export service. Now it's monthly in the free developer accounts that we're working in. In an enterprise level or above instance of Salesforce, this is a weekly option, but Salesforce does not provide daily exports of your data records. They should, but they don't. There are third-party tools that you can use to do this, or you could use the data loader and schedule jobs daily to do your exports if you wish. But for now, one of the other core functionalities with the data export though is you can do a scheduled monthly export in the free developer account or weekly out of the other instances of Salesforce. So you schedule the export. You can specify the file encoding. You can specify to include images, documents, and attachments by clicking here. That will increase the file size and the processing speed of such requests. You can also include Salesforce files and Salesforce CRM content document versions. That has to do with libraries and Salesforce content, and also will increase the size if you select that. You can also replace carriage returns with spaces, and you can leave that checked to default. So you can set the frequency either to a specific day of the month or on the first, second, third, or fourth specific or last specific day of the week of the month. So if you want to do an export for the last Sunday of every month, then you would do that like this. You specify the start and end times for this data export, and so you can set this well into the future if you wish. You can specify a preferred start time and then click save, and that schedules your data export. So this shows your next scheduled export, or if you wish, you can click export now to go ahead and do an export right away. And you can also do the same designations of what to include or exclude. And then it's defaulted to exporting all data. You notice here include all data is checked. If I uncheck that, I could just export specific objects if I wish, but I want to select to export all data. And this will export all the data records for each of these objects in my instance. And there's a lot of these. A lot of these are default objects that are available in your Salesforce instance. And then some of these are related to the apps that we've installed, such as this currency app called S4G that we did in a previous lecture. So once you're done specifying what objects you want to export data for, you just click Start Export. And then eventually you will get an email saying that your export is ready. So then when you come back to the data export screen, it will show not only your scheduled export, but it'll have a download link where you can download the CSV file. That CSV file will actually be a large zip file, and then contained inside of that compressed zip file are individual CSV files for each object, and any records for each of those objects will be in those individual CSV files. Another tool I want to show is the Workbench. The Workbench is available from workbench.developerforce.com, and so you want to agree to the terms of service, and the environment is production, and then you can select the API version. The API version has to do with the 3 annual major releases that Salesforce does, and at the time of this recording we're on API version 37. And so you could actually log in using a different API version to be able to test out functionality for old historic versions of Salesforce. But we're just going to keep things current and click Login with Salesforce. This will authenticate us against the instance that we're currently logged into, which is my Salesforce org that we've been working in. And you can actually jump to different menu options. So as you can see in the Workbench, there's a lot of different functions available, such as standard and custom objects. You can choose an object to see a further description on it. So you can get details on like the account object here and get really in depth on the developer side of things and see all of the different details at a very deep level on an object. But what I want to show is a SQL query. So what the Workbench can do is it can give you the ability to export data, or at least do a SQL query and get the results to then work with those through various means. And so if you notice here, I'm on the account object. Let's instead select the contact object. We can view the SQL query results as a list, a matrix, a bulk CSV, or bulk XML for the format of the returned results. And you can also include or exclude deleted and archived records, meaning you can get to things that have been deleted and are currently residing in the recycle bin. And you can even, as an admin, see things that other people have deleted. And so we want to pull in the fields on the contact record for is deleted and ID. And you need to shift or control click to specify these individually, or you can actually type in here. Let me see if I still have my SQL query from my clipboard, which I do. So I'm going to use that same SQL query actually that we did previously in this lecture when we were looking at the data loader, but I'm going to do this now in the Workbench. And I've specified to include deleted and archived items. I'm going to click query, and I've got the one record here with the ID of the contact, which you can actually choose some actions from this by hovering over, such as viewing in Salesforce, which is pretty nice. You can undelete from here even. You could delete or purge to remove it from the recycle bin, or you can go to the update screen to update this record. And then we've got the account ID, last name, first name, salutation name, and the empty social security number field. Let's change this though to get more data to work with. Let's just remove the where clause so that we pull in those that are deleted and those that are not all in one fell swoop. So clicking query, we should get the 20 results, which we do. And we see the is deleted is true for Jake Lorak here, but the rest are false. You could then work with this data further from within the Workbench, or you could copy it and paste it into Excel or save it as a CSV. So bear in mind the Workbench when it comes to exporting data as well. That may appear on your exam as far as just knowing the different capabilities of exporting data. So let's return back to Salesforce now. You may encounter questions on the exam related to the different ways you can export data or manipulate data in Salesforce. And so if you just bear in mind that there's the data export functionality under data management where you can export all records. That's on either a weekly or monthly basis. You can use the Workbench. You can also export data from Salesforce reports. And so then as well, if you're ever tasked with importing records in Salesforce, the best way to get a good starting template to work with is to first perform an export. And that gives you the column headers with the field names so that they match up for an easier import on the other side. So in the next lecture, we're going to be talking about relationship types and implications on record access.